Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is going to be the update to the Murder of Fire for the Markarth DLC. This is the last build update for that particular patch. All the other build videos will be updated in the next update. So we've got that coming very, very soon. But anyway, let's get into the nitty gritty of it. This is a stamina Dragonknight and it is designed to be as fun as hell at the same time as being viable for all content. It's easy to use, it survives, it does good damage, and it's really, really fun. So if you like lots and lots of fireworks and you love your proc sets, stay tuned. This is all going to be explained. So first of all, of course, as usual, we're going to go into the stats. So we'll make sure our bonuses are running, potions running if we've got one somewhere. There it is. Now, go into the stats. We are on 9.7k max magical, which is not that important, but we will use that bar, but we'll come to that later. 18.4k max health and 33k max stamina, which is quite good. We're quite tanky. We've got a good amount of flat resources. 935 stam recovery. 14 and 11k resist is not great. We can put a resistance buff on from our group or ourselves if we would choose to, but that's what we are flat out. And we do have 61% crit chance with 4k weapon damage. That does go up. So in content, or especially when you've got buffs and bonuses from your group, that does go a substantial amount higher, especially if you're hitting the target dummy as well, because that does have buffs on it, so just bear that in mind. Now, our food, obviously, is boosting our stamina and our health, and we do have 64 points into max stamina. That's the maximum we can put into it. We want to get as much of that as possible, but if you find that you are struggling with your resources and you can't maintain heavy attacks to keep up your stamina, or your group is lacking in resource return buffs and bonuses, you can change your food from flat, max health, max stam food. I know it says 0 there, but it's not. We'll go into that in a moment. And you can change it to recovery food. So if you look into here, you can see that the food we're using is actually 5395 max health and 4936 max stamina. The tooltip in the character select screen, or character stat screen, is a little bit bugged. Now what you can do is you can change to this. This will give you less health and less stamina. So yes, you're more squishy, and yes, your damage will go down a bit. But if you're struggling for resources anyway, and you are finding it a problem, you can switch to this stuff instead. And that will give you health recovery too, actually. And this will put you at 15.9, so almost 16k, and 30k, almost 31 in fact, with much, much higher recovery. This is a choice. You don't have to do this, but some places you might want to. It's entirely up to you. If you're in an optimized trial situation, let's say, for that we mean basically you've got loads of shiny buffs and bonuses, you can get Ebon in your group, you can get minor toughness in your group, you can crack 19k health almost anyway. But if you want to stick with the flat stuff and you're comfortable with your resource sustain, obviously this is going to benefit you a lot more, both damage and survival. Now you can, if you don't have the gold food, but you do want the extra recovery, you can swap to Dubious Command Throne if you prefer. It's a little bit less effective, but it's still quite nice nonetheless, but you don't have the health recovery with it. So this all day long, this if you're struggling with resources. Failing that, remember your basic mechanics. Heavy attack gives you resources back. But I'm not going to bore you with the tutorial details. I've got a beginner's guide for all that good stuff. So if you check in the description, that will all be there. Now, I'm going to explain the skills, obviously, in detail. I will go over where to get them from, what to morph them to, how to use them effectively, and then later on we'll get to the rotation. You'll see how it all lines up. But stay with me. I'm going to go into it all. Don't worry. So, first of all, it's Venomous Claws in the Ardent Flame skill line. Second ability to unlock starts off as Searing Strike, morph it to Venomous Claw. This is very simple. Apply it to your target. It will do single target damage over time to that target in the form of poison damage. Now, poison itself can have a chance to apply a poison status effect, which is a 6-second damage over time ability as well as the skill. But this doesn't just have a chance to do that per tick. This actually applies it initially when you first land the ability. So you don't want to spam this. It does do initial damage, of course, but you don't want to spam this. You want to make this last its duration. An extra bonus here to kind of encourage you to make it last its duration is that the longer it lasts, every 2 seconds is 1 tick of damage. The longer it lasts, the more damage it does. Every next tick will be 20% stronger than the last. So you want this to last its full duration if you can, or at least as long as possible before you reapply it. Don't spam it. But again, bear in mind, every time you do apply it, you do apply the poison status effect as well. Now, that just keeps in your rotation the whole time. Don't let it run out. Next up is Barb Trap, Fighter's Guild skill line for this one. Very simply put, this is the last ability to unlock. Takes some time to unlock it, obviously, but this goes on the ground. It's a trap beast to start with. It's morphed to Barbed Trap. The other one, you fling it over a rainbow and you don't want that. This will do single target damage over time, again, to the target affected. And it will last for 18 seconds rather than 14 like the other one. So still a very, very long durated damage over time. But this will do physical damage, not poison. So it scales off of your same stats, but it doesn't have the status effect to go with it. Now, this is very important. It will immobilize targets if they can be immobilized for 2 seconds upon activation. However, bosses cannot be immobilized. But that doesn't mean the skill doesn't work. Just that section of it. The skill itself doing the damage over time and increasing all critical damage that you do by 10% will be applied to you the whole duration as long as this hits something. So make sure obviously you hit your main target with this, but in a big cluster of enemies, at least make sure something gets hit with it so you can gain that minor force. It's very important. Any crits you do will be enhanced. Next up is Consuming Trap. This is very, very simple. You get this at the beginning of the game. You don't even need a skill point to get it to start with. Starts off as Soul Trap, morph it to Consuming Trap. Consuming Trap is different to the other morph. The other morph is Area of Effect and a lot less damage per target, but yes, Area of Effect. So you can choose that if you prefer. But this is not only a single target damage over time, with physical damage, much like Beast Trap is, but this is also cast at range if you want to, or you can be in the enemy's face, but this is also resource return. I've gone over this in every single video since this got changed. It's very clear. If this is on a target when it dies, you will get back 20% of every single resource bar based on your maximum amount. So the higher your bars, the more you will get back. Lots of people have said it's 5k or 7k or whatever per it's not. It's 20% per bar. So you'll see that our Magicka return is actually quite low there. Our health isn't too bad, and our stamina is the highest. That's because the stamina is our highest resource, and it, again, is 20% of the bar. So if you've got Warhorn running, or maybe you've got much, much more higher resources, that will be a different number. Anyway, in a nutshell, put this on a target. If it dies, you get all that back. And yes, the health one counts as a heal, which can crit, and does scale off of healing received. Now, if you're in a cluster of ads, put this on multiple targets and kill multiple targets with them all having this active, and you can get 20% back for each one. It's not just for one target. So you put it on 3, you kill them all, 60% resources back. There is your sustain. You're welcome. Next is Rapid Strikes. This is your main spammable and can be altered if you choose to, but only the morph. It's in the dual wield skill line. First ability to unlock, so you get it very, very early on. Get to grips with it early, because there is a way to apply this that can go wrong. So, this needs to be morphed to Rapid Strikes if you want slightly more damage. If you don't want slightly more damage, and you want to survive more, you can change this to Bloodthirst. Now, Bloodthirst does exactly the same in terms of its animations and all that good stuff, but it doesn't get progressively stronger. It just does the same damage every stab, except for the last one, which is the big hit. So this version of it gains 3% more damage per stab. It goes stab, 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 then the big one. Stronger, 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 big hit at the end. Bloodthirst does still do the stabbing. It does still get the increase at the end, but the last hit you will actually get a heal off of. What is he doing? The last hit you'll actually get a heal off of. So you'll do 300% more damage than the last hit. Then you'll get 60% of that in the form of health back. It's very, very powerful. So if you hit for like 20k, you're going to get a big, big heal. It's a substantial amount of your bar, actually. So you can just stab and stab and stab and constantly stay alive. Choice is yours. One for more damage, one for more healing. Each of them are actually very, very close when it comes to overall damage output, especially in content when things are going all over the place. Now, bear in mind the application of this. It is a channel. It lasts 0.6 seconds. So, if you don't finish the whole channel, in terms of maybe you got stunned or knocked over, or you tried to block cast it and you can't, you cancel it out, or if you move too far away from the target. 7 meters is the range, by the way, you do have to aim at them. If you don't connect with the last hit, you won't get the extra damage. If you don't connect with the last hit when you're using the healing morph, you won't get the heal. This has to finish. You can stab, 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 light attack, stab, 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 light attack, as much as you like, but you have to make sure the last hit always connects. Now, Whirling Blades is very important also. This is your execute, by the way. Dual wield skill line, third ability to unlock, starts off as Whirlwind, morph it to Whirling Blades. Not Steel Tornado, Whirling Blades. This will make you spin in area of effect, and enemies within 6 meters radius of you, so 12 meters across, 6 meters either side, they will get hit with physical damage, which really, really hurts. But you don't want to use this until they're low health. This will deal up to 100% more damage to enemies under 50%. Now, the sweet spot for this is actually about 25. Yes, you can spin at 50 and you'll get more damage progressively, but 25% is when you really want to start using this, because that is when you'll get the most out of your dual wield passives. Don't worry, we will be coming back to passives. Also, there's a timestamp for them. But you want to use this instead of your rapid strikes spammable at 25% health and under if you can help it. A little bit above that is not going to be the end of the world, but you're going to get a big boost if you go under that. Next is Flawless Dawnbreaker. Very, very important. This is your Fighters Guild Ultimate, and this is here just for stats, if I can find the bloody skill line. There we go. So, starts off as Dawnbreaker, morphs to Flawless Dawnbreaker. You do need Fighters Guild level 10, which is a bit of a drag, but once you've got it, this sits on your bar and gives you a passive bonus. Again, we're going to go into passives later. However, if you do activate this as your oh shit button, you will gain 300 weapon damage for 20 seconds. And in a very quick situation where this might be needed for an extra boost of damage or just for survival's sake, again, passives we'll come to later, this is actually very, very handy. For the most part, keep it on your bar. Sometimes if the boss is nearly dead and you don't have enough for your back bar ultimate, or sometimes if you're short of resources, you may want to use it. Because it does do a decent amount of damage in area of effect in front of you, especially if they're undead, Daedra, or werewolf. So some situations might prompt you to use this or warrant this use, but essentially you want to use your back bar ultimate most of the time. Getting to grips with a DK, you'll know when to and when not to use it, but this is mostly just for passives. Back bar is two choices for this particular slot. Molten Whip is here on purpose for those of you that don't feel too squishy and you have a very nice healer in your group that you trust. If you are one of those people that is 100% relying on a healer to keep you alive, you selfish bastard. I'm joking. No, that's fine. Some situations are like that. Some groups are like that. In which case, you will get a little bit more damage out. You can actually apply this skill. Although, you don't technically apply it. It's a passive bonus. Starts off as Lava Whip, morph it to Molten Whip. If you apply any Ardent Flame abilities while on this bar, and we actually have 3 if we count our ultimate, 4 including this one, but this one doesn't count, then each time you will actually add 75 weapon and spell damage for 5 seconds to yourself. Now, each time you cast one of those abilities, it starts a timer again, up to obviously a stack of 3, and you can consistently keep it going if you really had to, but 5 seconds worth of extra weapon damage, stacked 3 times, is very, very nice when it comes to swapping back to the front bar. So our rotation will have 2 or 3 abilities on the back bar. This will buff us, swap over to the front, we've got a nice boost there. Doesn't last very long, but it does make the difference in some situations. If, however, you're not comfortable with this skill and you can't get to grips with it and you keep pressing it and you don't mean to because that will consume the buff, then, of course, you don't have to go quite so squishy and you can change this for an actual heal, which is what I tend to do most of the time anyway, just in case, because you can never tell how the content is going to be. Sometimes you might need a Vigor all the time, other times you might not need it at all. So, this is what I put on Echoing Vigor. This comes from the Assault skill line. So you have to go to PvP to get this, of course, but Battlegrounds, by the way, guaranteed alliance points. Even if you lose, wave a middle finger, you still got points. You get points for losing, so don't worry about chasing Cyrodiil points if you keep dying all the time. Starts off as Vigor, morph it to Echoing Vigor. This will not heal just you, but it will heal your group as well, in area of effect. In fact, 15-meter radius, which is huge. Now, this is once every 2 seconds, whereas the other heal is every 1 second, but it's just for you. So, one of them is just for you, one of them is for everyone else. This one I find much more useful because 9 times out of 10 I am healing other people at the same time as myself, not to mention these do stack. So if you have multiple stamina users activating this skill at once, all of you get each other's heals. It's very, very nice, especially in a stack situation where you've got loads and loads of damage incoming, your healers are struggling, you can help out. Yes, this is a longer heal than the last one, but if the skill lasts longer, you're less likely to spam it because it won't benefit you. So your resources are in a better place. My preference, but I would say this one instead of the other. Also, if you prefer, you can of course go into the Fighters Guild skill line and put on Ring of Preservation. This will actually heal you and your group members rapidly over 0.5 seconds multiple times over the 8-second period. So actually 16 ticks of heals there, and give minor protection and minor endurance, which is quite nice. But this is a static bonus. This stays on the ground. It doesn't attach to other players and go with them for a duration. This is on the ground. So if you're not standing in it, you don't benefit. You can get Fighter's Guild passes from this for more damage, but that's only going to apply on the back bar. So again, 3 choices. Ring of Preservation for stack ups. Echo and Vigor for stack and moving situations where you can actually reach with the heals and you still have to move around. General use, to be fair, I always use it. Or Molten Whip if you want to have the slight extra damage increase if you're comfortable enough in your group to not be dead all the time. The choice, however, is yours. Next up is Poison Injection, very important, of course. Bow skill line. This takes ages to unlock, but once you've got it, make sure you turn Poison Arrow into Poison Injection. Single target damage over time. This is poison damage. Yes, that can apply a poison status effect, much like Venom Claw, but Venomous Claw is guaranteed. This one is chance. Essentially, you want to keep this on the target all the time because it is a damage over time. It does hit really, really hard, but it does have a free execute bonus to it. So keeping this running all the time will do nice damage, but once the target starts creeping below 50% health, it will get more and more aggressive. So this is like a growing increase to performance for a skill that you've already got running. The lower their health, the more damage it does. Lots of people try to put this on only at low health, but it does good damage consistently throughout the fight anyway, so keep it up all the time. Not to mention, of course, there is a choice as far as gear is concerned that is really going to make this particular ability boost your entire build, so this is actually a very important skill to use. Keep this on the target at all times. Not just for the aggressive damage over time, but also because it's going to boost the rest of your stuff. Noxus Breath is very important, of course. Ardent Flame skill line starts off as Fiery Breath, morph it to Noxus Breath. This is the poison variant of this particular skill. The other one is Flame, you don't want that. This will deal damage in area of effect, which is direct to start with, and then all the targets affected with that will actually take poison damage over time. Again, 14-second poison damage over time, very, very nice indeed. It also affects 6 enemies, because debuff affects 6, not more, although area of effect damage can hit multiple targets. So this will actually debuff them with Major Breach. Major Breach and Major Fracture were individual debuffs in the past with 5280. Now they've been changed to a combined debuff of physical and spell resistance debuffing of 5948. So it actually got buffed quite a considerable amount in Markarth. As did Minor Breach as well, which was Minor Breach or Minor Fracture. Now it's a combined buff, giving a really nice bonus there as well. Next is Flames of Oblivion. This is in the Ardent Flame skill line also. Last one you unlock starts off as Inferno, morph it to Flames of Oblivion. Yes, this costs Magicka, but this scales off of your highest resource. So this will scale off of stamina and weapon damage and all that good stuff. So your highest offensive stat. So for us, this is still going to do fire damage, but it scales off of your physical. And it hits really bloody hard. Not to mention, of course, we do actually have some really nice pen stripping debuffs because Major Fracture, again, was something that used to only affect physical, but with it now being called Major Breach and it affects spell resistance as well, granted you may have got that in a taunt in the past, for yourself, you now actually do more damage out of this if you're on your own or if you're with a group that doesn't have that. So it's actually quite nice. But, well slotted, this will give you Major Savagery. Not that important, we're going to have that with our potions anyway, but this fires a fireball every 5 seconds for 15. So just activate it, for 15 seconds you're going to fire a fireball every 5 seconds. This does have an extra perk to it, of course. It's not just single target. It will hit an extra target if there is more than one next to you, but it's always the closest to. Volley is what I call this, so if you ever hear me say volley, I mean this in either state. This is in the bow skill line. I have deliberately chosen Endless Hail for this build because of its duration. Very, very good uptime. It does help with our backblast weapon glyph, which we're going to come to in the gear. This was much more optimal for this setup than Arrow Barrage, the other morph. The other morph does do more damage, but it lasts a lot less time. It doesn't fit in the rotation very well. It doesn't make the glyph fire as much as we want it to, and it actually had a negative effect to the overall damage output. This, being a slightly less amount of damage per tick, but having a longer duration, had more control over the glyph and more damage over time because we could keep it up more often. This was much, much better. So you want Endless Hail, keep it on the ground at all times, area of effect, damage over time every 1 second. Has a 2-second delay, technically, when you wind it up, so it actually lasts 12 seconds, not 14, but the overall skill lasts 14 because of the wind up. Do not let that run out, ever. Poison Injection and Endless Hail need to be running all the time. Now, ultimates, you've got 2 choices here. We're going to go over the damage ultimate, which is this one. Dragonknight Standard, morph it to Standard of Might. While standing inside of this, you will gain 15% damage reduction, and 15% damage increase. What I mean by that is more damage from you, less damage you take. Both at the same time for standing in it. And at the same time, anything caught inside of it will actually take flame damage every 1 second for 20 seconds, and they will be afflicted with major default, reducing their healing received and health recovery and all that good stuff. Health recovery and healing received in PvE is not that important versus the target, but it's a benefit nonetheless, especially if you do have a healing target. Sometimes you do. Especially if you're in a pug with a group that's got really low DPS and the health is going up and up and up and there's nothing you can do about it, well, this actually benefits. Regardless of that, you've also got a synergy, which people can take, and it will do flame damage and area of effect and immobilize all the targets caught in it for 5 seconds, which is really good CC. Above all, this boosts your damage output. So you put this down, everything you're already doing will get stronger, and everything you do afterwards will get stronger as long as this banner is there. Don't drop this at the beginning of the fight though. You need to spend resources first, because we have passives that will benefit us if we've already spent resources. We'll actually get them back. So be very careful how you use this. Obviously, if it's a very maneuverable kind of situation or not really a static fight, the boss doesn't stand still, time this very carefully as to when you should and shouldn't place it. 20 seconds is a long time for an ultimate. It's very strong though. This is what you want to use all the time, unless you are squishy, you're in a pug that can't hold their own weight, or you just have to do too much bloody work and you just don't have the opportunity to use a damage ultimate and you just want to get some more survival or have to res people a lot. That's when you switch to this. Magma Shell or Magma Armor, morph it to Corrosive Armor. This will protect you a stupid amount. It's 200 ultimate, it lasts for 12 seconds. This will actually stop you from taking lethal shots, unless it's a deliberate one shot and there's nothing you can do about it. This will make you take 3% of your maximum health per hit at most. So if you get hit for 50k, and it's not actually a one shot, but it has to consider resistances, block mitigation, all that kind of stuff. You get hit for 50k, it's not going to hit you for 50k. It's going to hit you for 3% of your max health. Also, close by enemies take poison damage every 1 second. You're basically God mode, and all direct damage physical abilities will actually do stupid amounts of damage because they'll ignore resistances. Here's an example. This counts as direct damage. It's channeled, but it's direct. Word and Blades, also direct. That kind of stuff, that will ignore resistances. It's deadly. But again, it's not overall going to give more damage than the banner, but it will give you a very nice boost in a situation that you have to kind of drill something in really, really fast and survive. Or if you want to just res people. I use this to pick people up. No, you won't be immune to stuns, but you will take a lot of damage and not die. Entirely up to you, however. The choice is yours. If you've watched my live streams, you see me use Corrosive Armor a hell of a lot of the time because pugs, let's face it, sometimes are a bit of a mess. And you need that insurance. This is your insurance ultimate. Now, passives. Very simply put, we're going to go through the Dragonknight ones first, obviously, because these are very important. Get all of these. Every single one. This will increase the damage of burn and poison status effects. Basically, if you do fire damage, you could apply a burn status effect. If you do poison, you could apply a poison status effect. This skill, however, guarantees it. Now, if you do either one of the two, poison will give you 500 stamina back, fire will give you 500 magicka back every time you initiate a new status of those types. So, the more status effects you have, the better, and that will happen. Also, they're 50% stronger than any other class. When you deal direct damage with an Ardent Flame ability, you reduce the enemy's movement speed. Each one actually has its own individual direct damage part to it. So Venomous Claw does, Noxus Breath, they all got their own initial hit. So anything that gets hit with them will be snared. It's not massive, but it does help sometimes. This increases damage over time of Fire Breath, Searing Strike, and Dragonknight standard abilities. So your main bread and butter from the DK that we're using will all get stronger. Not to mention, obviously, this lasts a lot longer, which is really nice. And this increases the damage of your Flame Area of Effect abilities by 6%. The only Flame Area of Effect ability we've actually got is our banner, but that does benefit us. But at the same time, this decreases the cost of all stamina costing poison abilities by 25%. So it's not just our Venomous Claw and our Noxus Breath that is cheaper for us, it's also our Poison Injection as well. Much cheaper. In fact, 1.4k stamina, which is ridiculous. Very nice indeed. Draconic Power is important, but we're not using any of these abilities. If you choose to, you can, of course, put on a resistance buff, but bear in mind you're going to have to lose a skill in order to do that. 9 times out of 10, I would actually swap Flames of Oblivion for that. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you've got a resistance buff in your group, so you won't need it, which means we've got plenty of room for our stuff. This increases the damage you can block, so make sure you get that. While a Draconic Power ability is active, so if we did have this on for argument's sake, then of course you get a higher increased healing received. So the bigger the heals that you get from other people or you. This increases your health recovery if you have an ability slotted on your bar from this skill line, which we don't, but if you did, sure, that would help. That's not important, but what is important is the second part of the skill. Increases the range of your melee attacks by 2 meters. All of our melee stuff is usually 5 meters. For the Dragonknight, it's 7. This increases our spell resistance, which is why our spell resistance is higher. This is important as hell. Very, very important. This increases the duration of your Earth and Heart abilities. No, we're not using Stone Giant on this particular update. We did before, we're not using it anymore. It's a mess. It's much stronger how it is now, and the survival's higher. So let's just ignore that. This lasts longer with this bonus. Great. Battle Roar. Anytime you use an ultimate, this is why I said Fighter's Guild ability on the front is our oh shit button. We only use it when we want resources quickly, because it's really cheap. And this one on the back, either one, is really expensive. We want expensive ultimates because Battle Roar will give you 46 health, magic, and stamina back for every single ultimate cost. So the higher it is, the better. But make sure you don't have full bars when you use your ultimate, because it's a waste. If you've got full bars and you get loads of stuff back, but you've got 100% anyway, now you're going to have to wait until your next ultimate to actually make use of it. So burn through some resources first, get your dots down, start getting into the motion of it, and then drop your ultimate. Then you'll get back what you just spent, and then you can continue. It's about efficiency. Very important passive. Oh shit button gives you very small amount of resources back. Major ultimate gives you loads back. The situation will depend on which one you use, but this benefits you nonetheless. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you get Minor Brutality. Yes, of course, that does mean you need one of these skills. We're not using any apart from this, of course. So we're not really interested in that overall, but you are going to want it just in case, because this does help. But it also gives you ultimate back, which, again, the ultimate being used doesn't give you ultimate back. It's not that useful for us because, again, we're not using this particular skill. If you like the old setup, you can use Stone Giant. You will benefit from this, but we're not actually using it on this version. However, be aware of the passive, because if you do have a Dragonknight in your group, perhaps a tank, and they're spamming Igneous Shields, this Minor Brutality is going to be with you and the rest of your group, and this is why. It's this passive that you're getting it from. So if you were curious as to why you've got it all the time and you have a DK tank with Igneous Shields spamming this, that's why you're getting it. Again, if you do choose to put on Igneous Shields instead of perhaps Flames of Oblivion, maybe you're in content where you need a shield, whatever. Any of these skills you can swap out for later use if you prefer. It's about personal preference. You will benefit from this, but the actual setup we're using today doesn't need it. But anyway, one day you're going to use it. Helping Hands is very important if, again, you're using one of these skills except for Stone Giant, and that will give you 990 stamina back every time you use an Earth and Heart ability. It doesn't apply to this skill. But again, if you are using Igneous Shields for any reason, maybe you're in Maelstrom and it helps, maybe you're in vateshran Hollows and it helps, maybe you're in a group and you just want a shield occasionally, whatever. If you do use that, you will get this back. Usually, these two are the most important passes for any Dragonknight, alongside Battle Roar, but these are very important. For us, it's not the end of the world if you don't have these this time. But again, if you've got the spare points, go for it. Now, dual wield is very important. I told you earlier, there's some passives. Yes, there are. This increases the damage of dual wield abilities against enemies with 25% health or under by 20%. Remember I said not to use this until under 25%? This is why. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger the lower the health, but 25% is the sweet spot for your dual wield damage. And yes, that does apply to your light and heavy attacks as well. You want your execute to start kicking in around here. This will increase the damage of your offhand weapon. Offhand weapons hit a little bit less, so that helps. This reduces the cost of your abilities from this skill line. This will give you a 15% damage bonus to anyone CC'd, and this will also give you a bonus for each type of different weapon that you have. So if you had 2 axes, for example, you would end up with 16% chance to add a bleed effect. If it's just 1, you get 8%. If you have maces on, it's 10% per mace, so 10% for 1, 20 for 2, and so on and so forth. We're actually using 1 axe and 1 dagger, so we're taking advantage of a bleed, and we're also taking advantage of a crit bonus. How you fit that is up to you, but the build is what it is, so either take or leave it, basically. Bow is very important, of course. This will give you a damage bonus to enemies at long range. So if you are inside mechanics and you do have to step back a bit, do not let your lights, your heavies, your volley, your poison injection run out. Keep them going. And a proper DPS. Yes, a little bit of a stab there. Okay, a good DPS player, an effective one, can keep up damage in mechanics. Healers in mechanics still heal. Tanks in mechanics while moving still taunt. DPS should still be doing damage. Flat logic there. Sorry if that's confusing, but you do need to keep those things up. And this benefits you with this passive if you do so. So, of course, you're not doing your front bar rotations. Of course, you're not hitting with a dual wield, but you are still effectively hitting with your bow. And if you do have to go outside your comfort zone into a different range, you will still get a damage increase to cover that gap. It's very important. And with one of the gear choices that we have, it's crucial that you remember that lesson as well. So then you will still keep up some very good damage output at range. Not just from your bow, but from another set as well. This increases your weapon crit rating for having a bow. Just on that bar, by the way. This reduces the cost of your stamina-based abilities with a bow, which they all are. And this, while dealing damage with a light attack or heavy attack, you will actually give yourself a bonus, a stack bonus, which can stack up to 5 times. Each time you fire a light attack or a heavy attack, it will reset the timer, but it will continue with the stacks. If you get up to 5, obviously that's peak, and it will just keep refreshing and refresh. This will give you a higher damage output for your bow, up to a total of 25% increase. So again, like I said, if you do have to go ranged, you get the bonus here. We've got a set choice that will still give you massive damage at range, and you can keep up your light attacks from range quite easily, which will consistently kind of stack and give you higher damage just in those moments. Now, in our standard rotation, while we're up in the enemy's face, we're probably going to get about 2 to 3 light attacks on the bow. This does carry over to the skills that are already running, but it's a short duration. At long range, we'll get the full benefit of it. This is a very important passive. You must understand it. You must keep on top of it. And above all, evasion. We're a medium build. We don't have tanky resists. We don't have damage shields. Our evasion is our best tool of defense. So if you dodge roll to avoid damage, you then run faster. But be very careful. You have to be on the bow to do this. And if you dodge roll too close to a previous dodge roll, the cost will increase. So don't over spam your dodging unless you really have to. Now, we're not using any light armor at all. As you can see, no bonuses whatsoever. But you can. We'll go over that in a minute. We're not using any heavy at all, but you can. Again, we'll go over that in a minute. We're using 7 medium. Now, if you have 7 medium, you benefit from all the bonuses and their max potential. So, this will give you increased crit rating, which is great. This will increase your stam recovery and reduce the cost of stam abilities, which is great for your sustain, obviously. This reduces the cost of sneak and reduces detection size. This increases your weapon damage by 15%, and you must have a minimum of 5 pieces to acquire this bonus. And this improves your sprint speed and reduces the cost of dodge rolls. This is very efficient for us. However, if you want slightly higher flat stats, so your stamina resources will go up to almost 35k, and your health will go up to not far off of 20k, you can of course take advantage of the Undaunted passives. Now, we're taking advantage of a 2% bonus of it so far, but if you want a 6% bonus across the board, which I'm coming to, you can get 1 piece of light, so your monster helmet or shoulder, and 1 piece of heavy. If you choose to do this, you will lose 2 bonuses worth on some of these passives. So this is per piece worn, so is this. That will go down obviously by 4% per piece you take away. So you can go with 1 light, but you'll want these passives. This will help with effectiveness versus snares and sprint costs, which is actually quite helpful. This will give you mag recovery and reduce the cost of magical abilities. We are using those, that will help. And this will give you a slight increase to spell resistance. You don't need these 2 because they are for 5 pieces. And on heavy, this can also be very helpful. This will increase your physical and spell resistances. This will increase health recovery and restore resources for each piece worn if you get hit once every 4 seconds. And of course, Juggernaut will increase your max health. Now, again, you don't want these 2 because these are for 5 pieces. These are choices. Full 7 if you want to go medium all the way. Full 7 pieces. But if you want to go 5, 1, 1, 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy, you will need more skill points. Now, if you do that, this skill is going to be a bit more effective for you. This one here, we'll come to that in a second. If you pick up any synergy in the entire game, it will benefit you. Please take up the synergies. If you don't know what synergy means, look it up. It's very clear. It's to help you and your group combined. If you do so, you will get resources back. This also helps your sustain. If you pick up a spear, you get resources back plus this. If you pick up a conduit, you do damage and area effect plus this. If you pick up a bone shield, you protect yourself plus this. Pick the synergies up. Any tanks out there screaming, synergies are only for the tank? First of all, no, they're not. Otherwise, other people wouldn't be able to take them. Secondly, why is a spear on a target dummy then? By that logic, everyone has to stop taking them and actually show some proper results. And finally, there's no shame in saying, I know someone took the synergy, it's fine, but can I have another one, please? Doesn't hurt. Just ask for a bloody spear. Anyway, essentially, take the synergies. You get massive resources back. And if you have 7 pieces of medium like we have now, you get 2% increase to all 3 resources. Health, magic, and stamina. But if you decide to go 5-1-1, so you change your monster helmet and your shoulder to 1 light, 1 heavy, you'll actually get 6% max health, max magic, max stamina. One side of the coin gives you more resources and more survival. The other side of the coin gives you more recovery and higher crit chance. And reduction to cost. Choice is entirely up to you. We are not going to go into vampire because we're not one, but you can be if you choose to be. If you choose to be a vampire, I would not recommend going any higher than stage 1. You're not going to use any of the abilities, you don't use any of the passives whatsoever. Stage 1, however, you will have an increase to cost for all your abilities by 3%. You will take slightly more fire damage, but you won't notice because it's tiny. But you will gain a benefit of a sneak passive so that you sneak faster. You will actually be full speed, like you're walking in stealth. So that's actually very, very helpful. So stage 1 if you want to, but you don't have to. Fighter skill is very important. We said we're going to go over these passives. Intimidating presence to get the cost down. 15% reduction. Great. This increases your weapon damage for each Fighter's Guild ability slotted. So as you saw earlier, you've got Beast Trap. And this is your passive extra weapon damage just for sitting there. Now, of course, if you put Circle Protection on the back, you get the bonus there. But that's only while you're on the back bar. This you're going to need. 9 ultimate for every undead, daedra, or werewolf you kill. Literally, standing in a circle with your 2 dots down, Dawnbreaker perhaps, and spinning to win, you're going to get a lot of kills. This helps. Massive ulti regen. This will also increase the damage you do to undead, daedra, or werewolves with Fighter's Guild abilities. So your Beast Trap will be stronger, and of course, if you do hit them with a Dawnbreaker, that hits harder too. Definitely get those. Now we're going to need to get our race passives, and then my favourite passive of all time, but we'll go to that in a moment. We're an Orc. You don't have to be. You can be any race you like. Yes, even that one. But we've chosen an Orc on purpose because this gives us 2k max stamina, 1k max health, plus every time we hit with a weapon ability, whether it's single target, direct, AoE, damage over time, doesn't matter. If it's a weapon ability, including lights and heavies, you heal once every 4 seconds. Yes, that can crit. Yes, it scales off a healing received. And increase weapon damage by 258 flat out. And we reduce the cost of sprinting, and we're faster. We're wicked quick, we're brawler mode because we have loads of stam and health and heal all the time, and we hit hard. Orc in a nutshell. But, again, if you want to choose any other race, it's entirely up to you. You will not break the build, just bear in mind the differences in the passives and what you lose or gain. Alchemy, favourite passive ever. Medicinal use. This is very simple. You are going to be using weapon pots, which will give you major savagery, major brutality, and major endurance. So, recovery, weapon damage, and crit. They last 37 seconds, but if you have this bonus, they last 47. Which means they are over the cooldown. These are consumable buffs, do not let them run out. If they run out, you're doing it wrong. Keep it up all the time. You have 100% uptime and some. Every time that potion is not grayed out, pop it. Massive resource return, massive damage output, keep it going all the time. Yes, they can get expensive, maybe save them for a special day, but make sure you don't let your potions ever run out. This passive is insane. You don't have to have max alchemy, you can just put it up to full, unlock this, dump the rest of the skills, and just keep this passive and buy potions. It's entirely up to you, but you want medicinal use. Now we're going to go into the gear. Who is surprised and who isn't? Okay, first of all, don't panic if you've been following this build before. Yes, the rotation is slightly different. Yes, the skills are slightly different, but don't worry. Unfathomable Darkness, Dagger, and Axe is still there. 1 Nirnhound, 1 Precise. This set has crit, penetration, weapon damage, and this got buffed. When you deal damage, you call down a murder of crows around you for 12 seconds, and every 3 seconds a crow will hit the nearest target within 12 meters of you for a massive 8k physical damage, which goes up depending on your bonuses in your champion points, and of course the penetration debuffs on the target. It does affect it. It can go higher. It's going to happen once every 15 seconds. So you have it running for 12 seconds, there's a 3-second gap, starts running again for another 15 seconds. Technically 100% uptime because there's a 3-second gap between each peck anyway. However, look very carefully. Do you see a percentage chance to proc? No, because there isn't one. When you deal damage of any kind, it's guaranteed to fire. So yes, if you walk up to someone and crack them with a light attack, now they're going to get hit with a load of crows. Fantastic set. You want this on your weapons on the front, not the back. Weapons on the front, and then you want the last 3 pieces, if you can, on the jewelry or on the body. You want Bloodthirsty on all 3, with max weapon damage on every single one of them. Now, all you have to do is hit something and this will happen. It's very, very straightforward. Your back bar weapon is a choice. You can have the Master's Bow if you want the most out of the build, but if you have a Maelstrom Bow instead, it's not the end of the world. You'll still get very, very good results. Maelstrom is from, obviously, Maelstrom. Normal or Vet doesn't make a difference. The bonus you get as the first piece bonus versus the second piece bonus is literally no bloody difference at all. You won't notice it. The second bonus is the same whether it's normal or perfected. It doesn't make a difference at all. This particular bow comes from Dragonstar Arena. You can do it on normal or vet. The perfected increases your weapon damage while on the bar. The normal one doesn't. You're not on the bar long enough to notice anyway, so don't worry if you get the normal one. The normal one is just fine. But the most important thing about this is it must be infused, so you've got the weapon damage glyph, which will constantly fire as long as your volley stays up. And if you apply poison injection, effectively that target receives damage from you equivalent to as if you had 330 extra weapon damage yourself. So your stats don't go higher, but your damage versus that target does, as if you had 330 extra weapon damage. And this can go on multiple targets, but as soon as it runs out, your buff is gone. So keep your rotation nice and clean. Do not let poison injection run off very long if you can. It's very important. So front bar, Unfathomable Darkness with the jewelry. Back bar, Masters if you can get it. Maelstrom Bow will do for now. If you don't have either, it's not the end of the world, but do not double bar this because it will proc really awkwardly. Just put a crafted bow on the back, you'll be just fine. Now, to the monster set. And this is very, very weird, I know. If you're in the face of the enemy and you're not a big scaredy cat, you want to be using this. Xan is nuts. Now, yes, it increases your spell crit rating. Whoopie-doo. But this, if you do a light attack or a heavy attack, will have a 33% chance to do a fire beam at the target, and it will get progressively stronger, doing damage every 1 second. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger for 6 seconds with an 18-second gap. That's 18 seconds from when it first fires, by the way. Now, that means there's a 12-second gap between finish and restart again. If the beam is broken, however, and you go 8 meters out of range or further, then rip, you have to wait until the next time it procs. Each tick is 100% stronger than the last one, and regardless of this being a fire-based ability, so are some of your class abilities. This hits incredibly hard. So on the build itself, tested and tested and tested and tested. Yes, Falcon Scoria still works. It was amazing, but it's nowhere near as strong as Xan on this particular setup anymore. It's been the same for a while, but Falcon Scoria is slightly different in its application now. Before, it used to apply to every single target damage over time. But with their standardization of what skills and abilities and procs and stuff are supposed to do in the game at the moment, over time, without putting it in all the patch notes, they have made procs balance out to the fact that they're supposed to not proc from procs. So, in the past, Falcon Scoria would fire not just from your major skills, but it would fire from your poisons. Your double dot poisons both had a chance, which procs from weapon damage abilities, then makes a poison effect happen, then that would then proc Falcon Scoria. That can no longer happen. Burning status effects, poison status effects can no longer make that happen. Damage over time effects from a set can no longer make that happen. Bleeds, which proc from weapon hits from an axe. So it's one condition, making another condition, cannot happen anymore. So double dot poisons, bleeds, status effects, or sets do no longer make Falcon Scoria fire. With that in mind, it's still solid because it's got loads of damage over time anyway, but it doesn't fire anywhere near as much as it used to. Also, one more thing to consider, this no longer considers damage over time. This does not get boosted by Thaumaturge, it's not a dot anymore. Yes, it does damage over a duration, but it's a direct damage channel. It channels and you direct stab, direct stab, direct stab, direct stab. It's been like that for a little while now, but that is no longer damage over time, so that doesn't fire it either. So, with that in mind, Falcon Scoria is off the table, but if you still want to use it, this, and this, and this, and this can still fire it. So it can still have a good uptime. But anyway, due to that and due to actual results from testing, Xyn kicked the shit out of it. Helmet and shoulders, Xyn all day long. But something else did do very, very well also. And it's very effective at range as well if you have to move in and out of mechanics. You know where I'm going with this. Jeff. Jeff is insane and almost as close as Xyn. So if you want a big scary Daedroth breathing fire because you are bringing the fire into the group and you're supposed to be all scary, bring Jeff. He's amazing. Yes, he has a magical bonus on the bar or on the set, but you're using magical abilities anyway because you want to keep up your Flames of Oblivion and your Soul Trap, so it's not the end of the world. Both of them do fire damage. Both of them work really, really well. Vulcan Scoria is still an option, but just doesn't fire as much as it used to. Body. Red Mountain on the body. You do not want this on your weapons because you want to make sure you've got full control of this. Now, Unfathomable Darkness has a duration, so you can be on the back bar while it's still running, it will still continue. This does not have a duration, it has a cooldown. So this is a pain in the ass, you might actually miss out on it. So be very careful. But, weapon damage, stamina, weapon crit. Nice, nice. But, when you deal damage with a weapon ability, or a weapon in fact, light or heavy, you make a volcano splurt out of the ground and you hit the target with a shit ton of fire damage. This changed. It used to fire every 2 seconds-ish. 1 second, and then a wind up, and then fire. So it doesn't do that anymore. It has an 8-second cooldown instead. But the damage got enhanced a lot. It hits incredibly hard, and it got buffed to some extent as well, because this used to be a 10% chance to fire when dealing damage with a weapon. Look at it carefully. Where's the percentage? There isn't one. It's guaranteed. So, Red Mountain and Unfathomable Darkness are both guaranteed to fire off of a weapon hit or damage dealt. This is damage, this is weapon hit. So basically, in a nutshell, if you walk up to someone and hit them with a light attack, Red Mountain and Unfathomable Darkness just fired. 100% chance. This is not a PvP build, but just saying, if you are in one of those situations, light attack, have some procs. But this is a choice. If you want to optimize and get some more damage, by the way, so far this particular setup can crack like 80 to 82k, no problem, all day long. If you want to optimize a little bit more and you're very good with your rotations, you can keep your light attacks up, including it in ranged situations like I explained in the bow passives. Go back there if you missed it. You've got some options. So Reliquin all day long on the 5-piece, on the body, if you can do it. If you can keep these up. If you can keep up your Hawkeye passive, you can keep this up. Happy days. If not, don't touch it. Keep this on. If you can't use it, you've got two choices. Practice or take it off. The other option is Aegis Caller. This is very simple. When you deal critical melee damage, which you will do almost all the time, big dude pops out of the ground, spins in area of effect, does loads and loads and loads of damage. Very, very effective set. No, it's not made of fire like this is, so unfortunately the fireworks disappear, but it's a very cool proc nonetheless. It's very easy to manage. Doesn't quite hit as hard as Reliquin, but it's not far off. If you're using Reliquin, you're looking at 90k on a good rotation. You're looking at Aegis Caller, you're looking at about 85, 86, but you've got massive area of effect damage as well in the form of a bleed. And Red Mountain, 80 to 82 all day long if you're good at your rotation. But of course, it's guaranteed procs, and what's better than a load of fireworks? The choice of the sets is entirely up to you. vateshran Hollows, however, Aegis Caller all day, because you can put all the ads in and kill them in area of effect, otherwise it'll take you too long and it'll be a bit of a pain. If you do choose to go into vateshran with this build, here are some recommendations. First of all, make sure you put Aegis Caller on the body. Keep Unfathomable Darkness on, not just for the budgies, but for the penetration as well. Take off your monster set. Put one piece of Unfathomable on the shoulder or helmet. Replace one of these with something that benefits you, so perhaps Vulcan Scorius, because you've got the spell pen there, or Krag for physical penetration. One piece monster set is absolutely fine. One shoulder piece or helmet, depending on which one you choose, of Unfathomable Darkness, and then that way you can fit the ring. So, Ring of the Pale Order, Unfathomable helmet or shoulder, and then Krag helmet or shoulder, and you'll be just fine. Rest of the time, stick to this, it's solid. Now, I'm going to go into champion points, then I'm going to explain the rotation. Red stuff is the same as it usually is. 72 into Ironclad to reduce the amount of direct damage you take. 64 and 64 in Hardy and Elemental for everything else. And 51 in Thick Skin for 19% reduction to damage over time, including the damage types from here. So they do stack. Unchained is important, by the way. If you break free, next stamina ability is 80% cheaper. Very handy. 19 points in a quick recovery to give us our healing received bonus, and of course give us the res passive. So if you are resurrecting someone, pop a vigor first, by the way, because you can heal while you're doing it. You will actually take less damage while resing. 44 into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. 75 tenacity and Markarth to give us increased resources back when we heavy attack. Make sure you obviously do heavy attack, and increase our stam recovery. 76 into Tumbler. You don't really need it. I mean, you could do this. You put 72 in there, and then put some into Shadow Ward, so you got 1% block reduction. Whatever. As long as you got 76 in this tree and you're utilizing Tumbling as much as possible, you have a Treasure Hunter passive, which will then allow you better quality loot from chests. Sticker book OP. Now, 72 into Master at Arms. We are doing a lot of direct damage. Bear in mind, Rapid Strikes is now direct. Light attacks and heavies are direct from our weapon types that we're using. We have procs going off left, right, and center. They're all direct as well, unless you're using Reliquin, in which case they are obviously damage over time. And we've got Physical Weapons Expert here, 16 points for lights and heavies, and they do stack together. If you're using Reliquin, you want to take some points out of here. You want to put this to 66 and then start boosting Thermitage a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Failing that, if you want to keep it simple, stick to this. You'll be absolutely fine. You can get 90k as it is with this particular setup. 48 in Thermitage for our damage over time. We are using a lot of it, but we do have a lot of direct as well, especially when it comes to execute. And we want to start increasing our crit damage, so we want 51 points into here. 19 into Pearson. We don't need any more than this at all, because we do have our own major debuffs. We do have extra penetration with our set from Unfathomable Darkness. There's lots of different buffs and bonuses in the game that did get enhanced, so it's a lot easier to reach pen cap in groups now. So if you do have all the shiny stuff, you are absolutely fine. If you find you're solo, however, and you want some more pen, just put on the Lavamunder Stone for the time being. Won't be an issue. 64 into Mighty to increase all damage done to your basically physical poison or disease damage. You can, of course, put more into damage over time if you like, but it's all physical poison and disease anyway, so you're not going to get much of a difference here. You're going to put 1% out of here, put 1% in there, then you're going to lose some of your flat direct damage because this is all specified. This is actually all damage types that we're doing, so it covers all angles anyway. Normally go 49 in there. This particular build I have not. So, rotation. Nice and simple. We're going to go to the dummy for this just so you can see it happen. But this shouldn't be too complicated at all. So the main things to remember, of course, are to keep up your damage over time abilities, but you must not let them run out for too long. So you've got your main Venom Claw, you've got your Beast Trap, and you've got your Soul Trap on the front bar. Very, very simple. Once they're done, keep them running, and you'll be putting your back bar ones on as well. You've got Volley, you've got Poison Injection, and you've got Breath. There's 3 dots on each bar, essentially. But how do you apply them in the right order? So when you go out to a fight, you want to make sure that your Beast Trap is down if you can help it. And then technically start on the back bar. Your Flames of Oblivion can be running already, as long as you haven't started the fight, because then you won't aggro anything, unless it is aggroed already. Now, we'll let him calm down a second, then we'll show you the rotation that you need to do. Come on. We're not arguing. There we go. We're not arguing anymore. So Flames of Oblivion on. Beast Trap down. Volley. Light Poison Injection. Light Breath. Swap bars. Nice and simple. Front bar, light Venomous Claw, light Soul Trap. Now the easy part. Light stabs 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Light Beast Trap, swap bars. Let's go over that again. Light Venom, light Soul Trap, light stab 4 times. 1, light 2, light 3, light 4, light Beast Trap swap. Nice and easy. You are going to have to reapply Flames of Oblivion every rotation, but to start with, obviously on the first one, you don't. You have it running already. Now, if you're very good with your rotation, you can actually get in 5 stabs, depending on whether your volley's going to run out or not. But just be careful, obviously, because your Poison Injection is about to run out there. You can squeeze in a 5th one, but that depends on the player. Don't go too slow with your rotation, because obviously that's ineffective, and don't go too fast, because you will mess with global cooldowns. You'll try and cast a skill before it's ready, you'll try and cast a light attack before it's ready, and nothing will come out. Sometimes less is more. Now, when it comes to execute at very low health, instead of doing this, light attack rapids 4 times or 5 times, delete that skill. Don't use it anymore, unless you are taking high pressure in the form of damage. If you're taking lots and lots of damage, obviously you might want to use that so you can keep your heals up if you're using Blood First. If you're not using Blood First, it won't make no difference. Delete that skill at 25% and replace it with this. Light attack, spin, light attack, spin, light attack, spin. Bear in mind, Rapid Strikes is a channel of 0.6 seconds. Spinning is not. So, you can get more of those out. So what you need to do is you need to light attack, spin 5 times, Then continue with your rotation. Come back. Dot, dot, spin, 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 spin. Rotation. Dot, dot, spin, 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 spin. That's all you need to do. If you start getting low, obviously heavy attack in between them. Take one spin away and replace it with a heavy. But that is entirely up to you, and it also depends on how you are in the fight at the time. If, again, you're very good, you can actually get away with 6 of these. But it depends on the player. Don't go too fast. Nothing will come out. If you want to see what that looks like up against a dummy, here we go. So basically, again, if you're using Reliquin, you're looking at about 90k. If you're using Elderscroll, you're looking at about 86. And if you're using Red Mountain, you're looking at 80 to 82 all day long. Can do all content. Many people have used it in everything already. No content is unachievable with this particular build. You'll be absolutely fine. You even take it into PvP, but don't tell anyone I said that. Now, that all does depend on the player. If you're not hitting anything, you're not doing any damage, and stuff doesn't die, make sure you kill stuff. But before we go, we're going to look into fashion. So, the helmet is, of course, the Stags of Xen. That's a heavy helmet. The chest is Sizehan's Jack, obviously, because he's showing off his shinies. Mega skin, by the way. Oh, the skin actually is Blood Forge, or Bloodroot Forge, I think. Forget what they call it. Blood Forge, something or other. It's in the Crown Store. It's the only one you can actually buy at the moment, so get that. Really, really good. Imperial Shoulders 4. We want the hands, which are Worm Cult braces. So that is medium Worm Cult hands. We have a heavy Dromathra belt. We have heavy Thieves Guild pants. Those are the ones that look like combats. That's on my main character as well. Very cool. Heavy Thorn Legion Sabatons. Now, there's lots of different ones. You don't have to go for those. I know it's a very rare motif, but they do look bloody cool. So we've got that. And we are using the duck sticks. If you ever played EverQuest, you know what a duck stick is. Failing that, sure, they look a bit chickeny. But those ones, Mazatun Mace, we've got 2 of those on. And the bow currently is a scale caller bow. You can use anything you like, but it does look kind of cool. Now, the colors we're using 3 major colors, although technically 4, actually. So we'll go into those. We're using Obsidian Black for the greys. As you can see here, we've got a few of those. We are using Legates Black for the black, but you can use, obviously, the Void Pitch, but that's very, very dark. It's entirely up to you. For some of the more purpley kind of shiny areas, we're actually using Warrior's Steel. And the red we're using, which is on the duck sticks, is of course Hollow Fang Krura. How the hell do you say that? Hollow Fang stuff. Red one. So, hopefully it helped, hopefully it wasn't too boring, hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. No, it's not as complicated as some of the other ones. Yes, it has very good damage, and no, it's not 100k, but it's more than enough for all content. The highest DPS check in the entire game is just over 42k DPS, and that's on one section of one fight, which only 3 people have to take part in. If you can reach that, you're good for everything. Nothing else has a check that high. Apart from that, pay attention to mechanics, keep up your rotations, don't be dead. Thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website XynodeGaming.com, which recently had a bit of a revamp. Also, there's Instagram somewhere as well. Maybe you want to Google that one, or I'll put the link in there. Why not? And don't forget, I also live stream on Twitch every day from 10 PM UK time, except Wednesdays, unless I say otherwise on Twitter. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next build videos when we finally get the next update. Keep an eye out for the information on Gates of Oblivion. Once again, thank you for watching, and bye-bye.